Most of them that deal with him is through fear of the people he have around him because they know the guys around him are cold-blooded killers.
Of course, the homicides here in D.C. don't happen at the Library of Congress, or at the Supreme Court, or at the U.S. Senate, or the White House, or at the embassies, which are guarded by the uniformed branch of the Secret Service. The murders, almost all of them, are committed in the black ghettos of Washington, which are like a combat zone.
We still in 1988. Kirk Bruce and his gang already been caught, convicted and sentenced to death by the gas chamber, later reduced to life without parole. Robert Clayton Williams, who was the brother of one of the victims they murdered, was on the streets of Landover looking for Kirk Bruce and anyone associated with him. Robert was strapped up with big firepower, riding around with murder on his mind for real, but the feds would receive a tip when he was spotted in a Buick Regal with Virginia tags. So they moved in quick. They captured him before he could avenge his brother. He was already a wanted man for drug charges in New York and Georgia. Bro, they caught him with a .38 revolver, 2 loaded 9mm, and 1 glizzy that was converted to fully automatic. He was trying to do some damage. 1988, 23-year-old Rayful Edmond was still a free man. So was Wayne Perry. The Redskins were playing at the RFK Stadium. Not only that, but they won the Super Bowl that year, beating the Broncos. It's just a timestamp. It's crazy that at the height of the crack epidemic, a war was taking place, and meanwhile, DC was dominating American football. I just had to throw that in there. The gift and the curse of a harsh city in the late 80s. It was a major risk doing business here for out-of-towners. The Jamaicans from up top knew about the profit margin in DC. Crack was selling for twice the amount in the city. To some of them, it was prime real estate, worth the risk. Prison is a blessing in disguise that many did not get a chance to experience. Make a mental note of that. Now let's go back for a quick second to Thursday, November 12, 1987. Francisco Sealy, age 20, came to DC from Brooklyn, New York, hoping to come up. He was on Marlin Street in Southeast. A lot of Jamaican dealers came down from the Brooklyn area, just like Sealy. He got a little too comfortable, and one day while Francisco Sealy was out, before he could make a move, he was shot and killed at the 400 block of Marlin Street Southeast. Target down. And just 3 days later, Sunday, November 15, 1987, McKeem Tyrone Johnson, age 21, and also from Brooklyn, New York, was caught lacking in the 400 block of Orange Street Southeast. He was spotted and approached by an unidentified man who crept up, target down, left on the streets, no face, no case. So February 1988, Marlin Chen, a Jamaican dealer, killed the mother of his child and another woman in front of 4 children, 3 girls and 1 boy, their age ranging from 15 months to 3 years old. This happened at 1436 Meridian Place in Northwest, where Marlin Chen and his 3 accomplices came to rob and kill his old partner named Owen Brown. Owen and Chen didn't see eye to eye on business, and so Chen planned to take him out and rob him. But the only thing was, Owen wasn't home, but the women and children were. At approximately 7 p.m., Chen called the apartment and asked if he could come over to visit his daughter, Colleen. Chen arrived a few minutes later, accompanied by Lee and 2 other men known only as Prince and Butter. When the 4 men entered the apartment, Carmetta Dean was in the kitchen cooking dinner. Christine Brown was resting in bed, and Shardine Britt, Ursula O'Connor, and the children were in the living room watching TV. When Brown heard Chen come into the apartment, she called to him from the bedroom, asking if he wanted her to come out. Chen said he did not and closed the bedroom door. A few seconds later, Ursula and O'Connor went into the bedroom and told Brown that Chen had a gun and that 3 other people were with him. Miss Brown jumped up and started to put on some clothes. She was half dressed with slacks but no shirt. When Chen entered the bedroom with a gun in his hand, he immediately told Brown and O'Connor to get down on the floor. After Brown said Chen must be joking, Lee entered the room, tore the receiver off the telephone and threw it down and said it was no joke and ordered them to lie on the floor. Brown told Lee and Chen that they were crazy. Lee shoved Brown, punching her in the face hard enough to knock her to the floor, and then stomped on her chest repeatedly with his foot. As Brown begged Chen for help, Chen stood by laughing with the gun still in his hand. Ursula O'Connor sat on the bed crying. At this point, Prince entered the bedroom holding another gun, which he had prepared like he was going to shoot. He then brought Shadeen Britt into the room and asked the woman where Owen Brown was and whether there was anything of value in the house. Brown replied that Owen had just left. She and O'Connor then pleaded with Prince to spare their lives. Prince told them that nobody was going to get killed. Chen, however, began to threaten Britt by telling her that she was not going to see her baby again, meaning that he was going to kill her. Chen then told Britt to go into one of the other rooms, but she refused. Just then, 2-year-old Darrell Graves appeared in the bedroom doorway. Seeing Chen with his gun in hand, Darrell walked back into the living room and returned in the bedroom with a toy gun. He pointed it at Chen and said, "Pow, pow, Marlin." Chen then put his gun into his waistband, picked up Darrell, and placed a knife to the child's throat. The woman in the room cried out, "No, Marlin, don't. Please don't." Prince told Chen to put the boy down, and Chen eventually complied. Darrell began to cry, and Chen said, "You don't know this boy. He's bad." When Miss Brown began to protest, Chen came over to her with the knife still in hand and threatened to cut her with it. After Brown begged Lee for help, Lee finally pushed Chen away from her. Chen then left the bedroom and went into a kitchen. He pointed his gun at Carmetta Dean's head, grabbed her by the collar, and told her to go into the bedroom. She went, followed by her 2-year-old daughter, Roxanne. As she entered the room, Dean saw that Ursula O'Connor was seated on the bed, holding her baby in her lap. Shadeen Britt was also on the bed, holding her baby, and Christine Brown was lying on the floor. Chen pushed Dean down. Her daughter stood next to her. Chen then yelled at Dean to stop looking at him. He began to approach Dean with his gun pointed at her, but Prince said, "No killing," to which Chen replied, "What are you talking about? She is Owen's sister, and if his mother was here, I would kill her too." Prince again told Chen that there would be no killing. Chen eventually stepped away from Dean and ordered the other 3 men to tie the women up. He pulled the cord out of the telephone and threw it on the bed. Lee and Butter went into the bedroom closet and began removing shoelaces from shoes to bind the women's hands and feet. Butter then gagged Dean with a thick piece of cloth and tied her hands and feet with black shoelaces. Lee tied Brown's hands and gagged her with a pair of sweatpants. Then Lee took a red sweatshirt and tied it around Shadeen Britt's arm and used black shoelaces to tie O'Connor's feet and hands. Prince, in the meantime, pulled out the drawers of a jewelry box on the dresser, removed all of the jewelry and put it in his pocket. After the women were bound and gagged, the 4 men left the bedroom. Almost immediately, Chen walked back in, stood over Carmetta Dean, pointed the gun straight at her from a distance of 3 to 4 feet, and shot her. Brown and O'Connor screamed, "Oh God, Marlin." Dean's child cried out, "Mommy, Mommy." Ursula O'Connor then started to get up off the bed, dropping her child as she did so. Chen shot her in the face at close range. She fell on top of Dean, who, though still alive, lay still and pretended to be dead. Christine Brown then tried to crawl under the bed, but Chen stood over her and shot her in the face. He then positioned himself over Shadeen Britt and shot her in the face at close range. According to Dean, the shots were fired just right after each other. After the 4 shots, Chen left the room. Dean heard the front door of the apartment slam shortly thereafter. After the men had left, Christine Brown regained consciousness and, along with Carmetta Dean, managed to get up and untie herself. Shadeen and Ursula were dead. Dean went next door to the neighbor's apartment and called the police. When the police came, both Brown and Dean identified Marlin Chen as the shooter by name. The police officers searched the apartment for evidence and found a yellow bag containing $9,000 in cash behind the dresser. Miss Brown lost her right eye as a result of the gunshot wound. Miss Dean was wounded in the upper left arm. Chen was arrested by local authorities in Kingston, Jamaica on January 6, 1989, almost a year after the shooting. By the end of 1988, something would happen that would damage the Jamaican posse's presence in the D.M.V, and it was called, listen up, it was called Operation Rum Punch, a nationwide sweep that targeted the Jamaican posses. And you know when the feds come, they come with the full blitz. And it was a perfectly orchestrated attack on the posses, arresting 220 people in 20 cities. When I said prison is a blessing in disguise that many did not get to experience, it's because there were many who were killed and prison could have saved their life. Chen killed the mother of his child and another woman right in front of the kids. A judge sentenced them to life for a list of charges including 6 counts of felony murder while armed, 1 count of mayhem while armed, and more. This is what I mean by they were crash dummies. Not all, but most, in the words of Jesse Lee Peterson. There's a thin line between being gangster and being a crash dummy. If a man goes around the city robbing dice games barefaced, to some people he's a gangster. Slim go hard, and he doing it barefaced with no mask. But to me, that guy is a crash dummy. Desperation will make a person do crash-worthy things. It's like the 9/11 situation. You know how people were jumping from the towers, falling to their death because the smoke and the flames were that bad inside the building? That's not the definition of a crash dummy, but it's an example of a desperate person. If a nigga on the street believe in his mind that he hit rock bottom, he got nothing to lose and it can't get no worse than now, who knows what he would do at that point? A crash dummy, when he doing 100 miles an hour into a brick wall with no seatbelt, metaphorically speaking. So the reason why I didn't title this video Jamaican Gangs versus DC or Jamaican Posses versus DC is because the main reason is, the more I researched, the more I saw that the posses had more in-house beef than anything. And secondly, a lot of the murders that came from locals went unsolved. There are a lot of dead Jamaicans that is only identified by name. And who knows if that was their real name. Some of them had fake IDs and they came from Kingston, made their way into New York and then to the DMV area. They wasn't from here, and I believe no one really cared when bodies dropped, at least for a while. It was just another barely identifiable Jamaican posse member who claims the body of an illegal dealer in foreign territory. But that's my theory. 1988 was a dangerous year, a murderous year. Big Head Gary brother, Brandon Terrell, was murdered that year at the Chapter 3 nightclub. A lot went on. This shit is a fucking movie, bruh. Hey, we peeling back the layers, man. Night Rider 707, aka Jay, checking out with another one, man. Hit me up in that comment section, man. We out.